The Denver Broncos made a huge splash in NFL free agency, and even critics from places like the 33rd team have admitted that we were one of the biggest winners. However, there's still one major move that needs to happen, and it's looking more and more likely with each passing day. In this video, we'll dive into that move and much more. One of the most significant losses we faced in free agency, something we haven't discussed enough, is the departure of Javonte Williams, also known as Pookie. Javonte was a running back full of potential before suffering a serious knee injury. Unfortunately, he never really returned to his best form after that. He has since signed with the Dallas Cowboys, and we wish him nothing but success in his new chapter. Even though Javonte couldn't quite get back to the explosive player he once was, one thing he continued to excel at until the end was his pass protection. Despite his size and build, which might not have suggested it, Javonte was incredible at stepping up to protect the quarterback. Whether it was a linebacker or a blitzing cornerback, he was always ready to block, keeping the backfield secure and giving his teammates time to work. In fact, early in the season, Javonte was ranked among the top pass-blocking running backs in the league. In situations where he was tasked with pass protection, he rarely let anyone through, keeping the pocket clean and preventing hits on the quarterback. His ability to do this was a huge asset for the Broncos. Now, the big question for the Broncos is how they're going to replace that crucial skill. Can someone like Audric Estime step up? I'm a little concerned, though, since Audric was a healthy scratch in the game against the Buffalo Bills, which was a pivotal moment in the season. It's clear that the Broncos need to address this need, whether through free agency, a trade, or the draft. We need a running back who can not only make a difference on the field, but also contribute to pass protection. There's been a lot of buzz recently about the Denver Broncos possibly trading for Christian McCaffrey. At first, I thought it was pure speculation, kind of out there and far-fetched. But now I've seen article after article suggesting it could actually happen. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Do you think there's any chance the Broncos would go after McCaffrey, especially given his hefty $127 million price tag? It'd definitely be a fun story, especially since McCaffrey has ties to Colorado. But there's a part of this rumor that gives me pause. The 49ers supposedly want a deal that includes our first, third, and fifth round picks this year in exchange for McCaffrey. Personally, I think that's way too much for a player who's 28 years old and coming off a season with some injury concerns. In my opinion, it might be better to use those picks to draft a running back in the first, third, and fifth rounds and hope one of them turns out to be a star. Let me know if you think I'm way off on this. I also think the trade is unlikely for another reason. The 49ers recently traded their backup running back to the Vikings, which makes it seem like they're all in on McCaffrey for the upcoming season. Plus, with some key players like Fred Warner and Talanoa Hufanga moving on, they might be clearing space to make other moves, possibly including a soft reset at running back. That said, I do think the Broncos could still land a solid running back this offseason. Mile High Huddle put out a great article suggesting that the Broncos might look to sign one of the top remaining free agent running backs, someone like J.K. Dobbins, who was with the Chargers. Dobbins, who was a standout at Ohio State, is an explosive player with great speed and playmaking ability. The only issue with him is his durability. He's struggled to stay healthy, both in Baltimore and last season with the Chargers. But knowing the Broncos have already taken a few gambles in free agency, adding a player like Dobbins could be a risk worth taking. The idea of bringing in a veteran running back like J.K. Dobbins raises some important questions, especially with his injury history. It's a big gamble, and it puts a lot of trust in the Broncos' medical and training staff to keep players healthy. But is it a risk worth taking? Personally, I think adding a proven veteran to the running back room could be very valuable. If Dobbins can stay healthy, he has the kind of speed and burst that we haven't seen in Denver since Javonte Williams was at his best. We've seen that explosiveness firsthand when we played against him. Fortunately, the second time we faced the Chargers, Dobbins was sidelined due to a knee injury, but when he's healthy, he's a force to be reckoned with. There was a lot of talk about the Chargers struggling after losing Austin Eckler, but we didn't see that when Dobbins was healthy. It wasn't until Dobbins went down that their offense really struggled. So what do you think? Would you be comfortable with the Broncos taking a chance on Dobbins? If the Broncos do bring him in, I think a smart move would be to also draft a couple of running backs in the upcoming draft. During training camp, the team could assess the situation. If they feel confident in the room, they keep Dobbins. If not, they could part ways with him, just like they did with Samaje Perine last year. I like the idea of having multiple options to find a top-tier running back, and it could open up a lot of opportunities for the offense. Breece Hall, for example, could take significant strides next year, especially with someone like Evan Engram at tight end, who can create more space in the middle of the field, something he hasn't had in Denver so far. Another interesting aspect of adding Dobbins would be the inside knowledge we'd gain on the Chargers' plans. They're making moves to strengthen their run game, especially after acquiring Mekhi Becton, a massive offensive lineman who weighs in at 364 pounds. Along with Joe Walt at 321 pounds, the Chargers are clearly focused on creating a dominant running game, and having insight into that could give the Broncos an edge. The more insight we can gain into the Chargers' plans, the better it will be for the Broncos. So, what do you think? Would you prefer to go after J.K. Dobbins, or is a trade for Christian McCaffrey just too expensive? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Before we wrap up, I want to touch on something else. We'll dive deeper into the running back prospects as the season progresses, but I came across an incredible NFL draft guide from The Ringer. They've ranked all the players on their big board, giving us a look at who they think are the most talented prospects in the draft. According to their rankings, linebacker Abdul Carter from Penn State is number 1, followed by Travis Hunter, a dynamic player who can play both receiver and cornerback, at number 2. The third-ranked player is Ashton Gentry, a running back I've been paying close attention to. What's truly mind-blowing is that in their mock drafts, more and more experts are predicting that Ashton Gentry could fall all the way to the Broncos at pick 20. Can you imagine how exciting it would be for Denver to land a talent like Gentry without needing to trade up? Gentry has the potential to be a game changer, and if he's there at 20, it would be a steal. That being said, I still think there's a good chance he gets picked up by teams like the Raiders or Cowboys before he gets to us, but if he somehow slips, I'd be willing to trade up a few spots to grab him, maybe around pick 16 or 17. It's really incredible to be in this position as Broncos fans. After making the playoffs and addressing many of our team's needs through free agency, we're now in a situation where we can be flexible in the draft. We're in a position to focus on finding that one key addition, and whether it's a player like J.K. Dobbins or a running back from the draft, it's exciting to have options. The great thing about this draft is that there are several talented running backs who may not even make the top 31 picks. We're in a strong position, and we'll be covering all of this in detail in the upcoming episodes. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out on any of the draft talk. There's a lot more to come. It's an exciting time to be part of Broncos country.